What's going on, everybody? Alex with you here again as usual. Thank you for dropping by. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at another awesome chess set from RoyalChessMall. It's going to be the 1950s Fischer Dubrovnik chess set, Mohagony stained and Boxwood. Now, before you pause and exit this video saying, Alex, I think you reviewed this chess set before, this time around, it's going to be the unweighted version, okay? So now, a lot of you guys might have questions about having an unweighted wooden chess set just because it's not something that we encounter commonly around. In fact, it's kind of rare. But for those of you guys who are history buffs and know a little bit about Fischer and the type of chess set that he preferred using, you would know that Fischer had a preference for a Dubrovnik unweighted chess set at the time. Sort of explained that it was easier for him to carry a chess set that was unweighted, and he felt like the overall balance of that particular chess set was just right for him. We're going to be visiting this idea of having a wooden chess set that's unweighted today. Now I'm going to start off by kind of talking a little bit about why you would want to have a weighted chess set and why maybe you would want to have an unweighted chess set. Let me start off by saying, like, this particular knight that I hold in my hand here is a plastic knight. I think it came from a Fischer Spassky plastic chess set. And if we look underneath here, now it might be a little bit hard for you guys to see, but I've already taken the liberty of removing this felt. And inside the felt here, I have to hold it closer to my face because it'll be out of focus. You might see this central gray part right here, which is a piece of metal that has been embedded inside of this particular chess piece and glued in there pretty firmly. A lot of these, you can't even take them out, which is good because you don't want them to dislodge while you're playing your games. So it's a pretty large chunk of metal. What kind of metal? I'm not really sure. It really does look like lead, but with all the controversy of lead, poisoning, and whatnot, and considering that a lot of kids will be playing these chess sets, I'm sure it might be some kind of an amalgamation of other metals. Long story short, it gives this particular chess piece quite a bit of extra weight, but it also, as I've mentioned before, kind of skews the balance of the weight a little bit more downwards. And in my opinion, when you're playing with plastic chess pieces and you're holding them up, you have that extra bit of a irregular weight distribution that causes your piece to be sort of always pulling downwards towards the base. Now, a lot of times with the plastic chess pieces, the plastic has a consistency of really not breaking or cracking unless you throw the piece across the room. And therefore, a lot of times the manufacturers of many plastic chess pieces can get away with really not adding too much plastic and making the piece itself somewhat hollow. In fact, I've seen many times before, even some of the luxurious plastic chess pieces would have only a certain thickness to the plastic, and then the inside of it would be pretty much hollow. I think this one in particular is not hollow, or it might be having a little bit of hollowness, but you can get away with saving yourself a lot of, as a manufacturer, you can get yourself away with saving a lot of plastic if you make these pieces hollow. But if you make them hollow and you don't add any weight inside of them, they're going to be weighing so little that you won't be able to play even like outside on a slightly windy day because your pieces are going to be toppling over. Because the pieces themselves, if they're pretty big, they can create like a parasailing effect, meaning the bigger the surface area of the chess piece and the wind blows on it, it'll just knock it over. So in order to balance this out, or basically to kind of reduce this issue, they started putting pieces of weight inside of them, putting little pieces of metal, okay? Now, this gave them a lot of extra weight. In fact, this particular chess set here measures at 42 grams. And for a small, I think this is a 3.75 plastic chess set, this is a relatively heavy chess piece. Like I said, it feels heavy, but most of the time when you hold it like this, it feels heavy towards the bottom, and it's a lot likely to want to upright itself like this because of that weight distribution to the bottom. Now, if you have a relatively heavy knight like this and it's plastic and it costs, something like $50, $40, and then somebody comes in with a wooden chess set that might cost $200, but there's no weight, that wooden chess piece would feel a lot lighter, and to some people it might not feel, I guess, not as valuable. So if you hold a chess piece and it's super light, back from, us holding inexpensive plastic chess pieces and they're like super duper light, you're like, what the heck is this, you know? But you hold a heavier plastic chess piece, you're like, oh yeah, more solid, yeah, yeah, more expensive for sure. It's the connection that we make for this is a heavier piece, therefore it's going to be more expensive. You know, it's that sort of a subtle connection that we don't even realize we make, but we do make it. So therefore, the more expensive the chess set is, generally, the bigger the chess pieces, the more they weigh, because the bigger the piece of weight is down there inside. In fact, this particular king here from, gosh, what is this? I think this is the Turin. Yeah, this is the Turin luxury chess set, like 4.4 Boxwood from House of Staunton. This behemoth weighs in at 108 grams. So we know that kings generally weigh a lot. But as far as most of my chess pieces, this is kind of reaching on the heavier side. And I think the heaviest I have is around 125 grams for the king. But the problem with something like that is that when they do put the weight, I removed the felt, by the way. You might be able to see that there is a pretty large chunk of metal inside here. You can also see that this particular piece cracked. I've shown you guys this video before, so for those of you guys who watch my videos regularly, you would know that this particular king cracked on its own. I didn't throw this, I didn't drop it, there was no accident, and it just sort of cracked on its own. So when they have to cut inside of the chess piece like this, they suddenly create a situation where the outer wall of the chess piece and the inner wall is a lot shorter now. It's smaller. And although the plastic is not really going to have any problem with that because the plastic is sort of molded together, so who cares if it's a thin wall? In wood, it's kind of like an ice, so to speak. If there is a propensity for a crack to occur, maybe after the chess piece sat around and dehydrated a little bit, maybe the internal structure of the wood weakened over time, even if it wasn't your fault. But if there's a propensity for that crack to occur from the surface, then it might be more likely for it to occur and spread towards the inside, because there's not much travel for the crack to sort of, go through. And the thinner the wall, the more likely that crack is to kind of start on its own. Not even anything that you did. I didn't abuse this chess set. I didn't throw it. I didn't toss it. It wasn't sitting in the sun to where I would say, oh yeah, this chess piece like dried up or whatever. But it has occurred nevertheless, and this is something that we have to look out for in some of our more vintage chess sets, because cracks can be starting on the inside and then they'll propagate towards the outside, and you won't see it until it's already too late. It's already, gone through and through. So that is one of the biggest disadvantages to having a chess set, especially a more expensive one that has a large chunk of metal inside of it. Is for that particular reason, the more expensive wooden chess sets that you guys can go and check out on House of Staunton, there's one particular variation. I'm not sure if they still sell it, but they did sell it before. So instead of grinding and drilling a big hole inside of the chess piece, what they do is that they actually glue on a sort of like this little tablet, I guess you can tell, or some kind of a circle to the bottom of the chess piece. And then I'm guessing on the very bottom of that, they'll glue in some felt. But that way, they prevent that particular chess set from cracking. There's a reason why they do that. And in the description of that particular chess set, it specifically says they did that to minimize the likelihood of it cracking. So even the manufacturers are aware of the fact that if you drill a hole inside of an expensive chess piece, you run the risk of this happening, okay? So it's not that being the reason why Bobby Fischer, decided to have an unweighted chess pieces. He probably decided to have unweighted chess pieces more so for the nuance of the fact that it's lighter to carry them, because if he had to travel across many different chess tournaments, it's easier to carry a chess set that's a little bit lighter. This chess set that you see in front of me here is actually the weighted version of the 1950s Dubrovnik. the one that I have found to be, you know, one of my favorite chess sets. But what I'm actually going to do right now to show you guys is I got this little canvas bag that from Violet Crown Chess, and I'm going to, the reason why I got this bag is because it doesn't weigh practically anything. Like, how much does this bag weigh? Hold on. What's this 20? No, hold on, guys. I hope that it doesn't weigh anything. That says like 40 grams. Are you kidding me? A bag weighing 40 grams? 39 grams. Gosh, I didn't think that this bag would weigh so much. 39 grams. Wait a minute. 41 grams. This bag, 41 grams? Okay, I thought it was a lot lighter, but okay, 41 grams, okay? Keep that number in your head. I'm just gonna go ahead and put all these chess pieces, including the extra queens, in this bag, okay? Now, this is the weighted one. This particular one, like I said, is one of my favorite chess sets from RoyalChessMall, and I can't get enough of just how awesome this particular chess set is. I'm gonna include the link for this particular one in the description below. But what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to go ahead and put all these chess pieces inside this bag, okay? And I'm going to kind of close it up and do my best at trying to basically balance these out sort of like this. So that, yeah, and I'm going to put it on my weight scale. And we're going to take a look at how much together everything weighs. Okay, 1364 grams. So 1,364 grams or 1.364 kilograms, okay? With the bag, so without the bag, minus 1364 minus 41 is what? 1322, 23? 1323. So 1323 for the entire sort of a weight of this particular chess set. I'm going to set this one aside. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put the other chess set, the other Dubrovnik, which size-wise, as you guys will see here, size and dimension-wise, they are very similar to one another. There are a couple of differences, and hopefully if you stay tuned, you'll be able to see those differences, and maybe some of those differences may be more significant to some people versus others. But yeah. Now, when you buy any of your chess pieces from RoyalChessMall, I have it right over here, but you have the little warranty card, which the warranty card says that for any chess pieces that you buy from RoyalChessMall, you get a warranty of 3 years for cracking. So, I'm not sure if cracking includes you accidentally dropping the pieces. I highly doubt that, but if the chess set like this cracks on its own, sort of kind of like my king did, where it's really not anything you did, then they will cover it, which is really cool. Because when the Turin Chess King cracked on its own, and I bought this from House of Staunton, I reached out to House of Staunton. I was kind of lazy. I guess I never got around to reaching out to them. And I said, hey, I have this Turin King, and it cracked on its own. So I explained everything. They were like, oh, we're very sorry to hear that. Well, can you please give us the order number for this particular chess set? And I went into my history, my purchase history. I went in and I said, oh, here's the order number. So they checked it out and they said, looks like you ordered this like a year and a half ago. And unfortunately, your warranty for this particular chess set has expired. The warranty, I think, was for 1 year for cracking. And that was kind of disappointing to me because wood in general takes maybe not an overnight process where, yeah, maybe wood can dry over time and crack on its own. And that's really disappointing to a lot of people out there who may have invested a lot of money into a chess set. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, they take it out of the box and they took good care of it too. And then there's a crack inside of the chess piece. Like, oh, shucks, like that's disappointing. Okay. So that's kind of how I felt about this particular king. And they said, no worries, you can still purchase this particular king if you wanted to. So I said, okay, fine. How much is it going to be? So I think that they quoted me like close to $60 for a king, which is a little bit a lot. I guess you could say it's a lot. The chess set itself is like close to $600, which for that particular price, yeah, $60 is not that bad, but also $60 can get you a pretty good complete chess set. Maybe not a wooden one, but you could definitely get a good plastic one with a box and a board. So $60, Okay, fine, $60. But then they were like, well, we checked our warehouse and we don't have the exact one. We can get you one that's going to look close. And so they gave me some pictures, and I thought to myself, well, they didn't look as good as this one. Plus, if you get one that's a little bit different, then it's not going to fit with the rest of your chess set. And if it just ever so slightly, if the wood stain is a little bit different, or if it's, you know, if the grain is a little bit different, it's going to stand out. It's going to stand out, and then it's just going to, it's still playable, but it's like, wow. But anyways, this particular cool chess set that I'm going to show you guys here shortly, and I'm going to show you each of the pieces too, and compare it to the other Dubrovnik, is a lot lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to put them all in the bag. You also get the extra queens. Now, for some of you guys that might have a question, you might say, well, is it, as far as the price, are you going to be saving any money if you ordered the unweighted versus the weighted? Actually, no. It's totally sort of a preferential. If you want an unweighted chess set, you're pretty much going to spend the same amount of price. I think there's like a $10 price difference between these two, but it's really not that significant for you to like really make your decision based on the price. I think this particular chess set retails for approximately $219 or so, whereas that one is, yeah, it's about the same. So together, the bag weighs at, you guys ready for this? With the 41-gram bag, 682 grams. This is a lot lighter, and you might say, well, this is a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's actually substantially easier for somebody to carry around something this much lighter, especially if you're always going to different tournaments, because you have to consider you're not just holding the chess pieces. When I weigh individual chess pieces and I say, oh, look at the bishop, you know, is it light or is it heavy? We have to take into account that all the chess pieces, they do still weigh some, okay? Let me give you an example here. This is one of my favorite cameras. It's the Nikon D700. It's an older camera, on top of which is the 24-7 millimeter f2.8 lens. A fantastic lens, but everything weighs a lot. There's a lot of glass inside of the lens. There's extra glass and mirrors inside of the camera. The body has some kind of a metal inside of it. There's weather sealing and all that. This is the top-notch camera that's going to give you excellent quality images. But if we put it on my little weight scale, okay, this actually weighs at 2,011 grams. I've taken this particular camera with me traveling to a lot of different things, cruises, everywhere we went, and I got great images out of it, okay? But it does get a little bit heavy to constantly have to walk around with this. It's heavy. It's heavy, and at that point you realize no matter how good the quality of the glass or the camera is, weight, it comes into consideration quite a lot, okay? Whereas this particular little bad boy will give you relatively good quality images. This is the Z50, a camera from only a couple of years old, that has more megapixels in here. It does video where that one doesn't, and it's just an overall a lot more of a compact package. Weighs in at 553 grams. This is a lot lighter to be able to carry around or put in your purse when you're traveling. Weight does come into consideration quite a bit. For that reason, I believe that sometimes for some people out there that are not looking to overcumber themselves, they may prefer to have a lighter chess set that's still high quality. 684 grams here minus the 41 would give us like 643 grams for the entire chess set. 643 grams. That's quite light, and that's good. To some people who are so dead set on the fact that I want the heavier, that might kind of make you realize that maybe the heaviest chess set isn't always the best. Okay, now, so for the most part, there's not going to be that much of a difference as far as the appearance of the chess sets between the weighted and unweighted Dubrovnik, besides a few little areas that I will point out to you guys that some of you guys might find significant enough. But before I get started, I want to show you guys this little nuance here. As you guys can see before me is one of the pawns belonging to the unweighted Dubrovnik, the one that I just got recently. And although I didn't really wanted to do this, but just to show you guys, I kind of carefully removed part of this felt. And if we sort of move this around here so that the light isn't reflecting too much, you guys can see that the down part here at the bottom, it's just wood, okay? And it's wood all the way through. Unlike, for example, the Turin chess set that you guys can see here, it's not all the way through wood. As you can see right over here, there's a pretty large piece, a chunk of metal inside. And that's what we are bound to see in most of the wooden chess pieces, is we'll have some kind of a piece of metal. Obviously, in a pawn, that piece of metal is going to be smaller because the base of the pawn is smaller. So, but it's going to be proportional to the size of the piece, and therefore the amount of extra weight that you can gain from the addition of this extra piece of weight is going to be determined largely by the overall size dimensions of the piece. As we see here, they can put in probably good 45, if not more, 45 gram piece in here, whereas in a pawn they would only be able to put in like a 20 gram piece. But that just goes to show you that there's a big difference between an unweighted and a weighted chess piece. And having no extra cut inside of the base, this wood here is solid. And therefore, what I was talking to you guys about previously, you're going to have a reduced likelihood for a crack to occur in any of these areas, even if you drop this piece, because these side areas are the areas where most of the chess pieces will fall. They will fall somehow hitting the side. They're through and through wood, so there's less likelihood that if there's an impact from the surface of the chess piece, it's not going to create enough of a pressure or enough of a energy to cause something like this, okay? Because this is devastating. It's a big, large crack without really. There are ways that you can repair this, but I keep this particular king here to show you guys that something like this could happen, okay? So let's move on, and I'll show you guys the similarities between the two different chess sets. We're going to start off with the kings, and I do certainly hope that things are going to be in focus. These are the two kings to the unweighted 1950s Dubrovnik, and we're going to go ahead and compare them to the two kings from the weighted Dubrovnik. 1 and 2. Here we go. So as you can see, there's really not a whole lot differences between them as far as the shape of them. They look quite similar. For those of you guys who are looking closely, you might maybe see that the finials to the unweighted are just a tad bit smaller, but for the most part, everything else kind of been made the same way. One of the things you might be able to notice is that the way that this particular weighted chess set here will have a little bit of a maybe thinner die for the mahogany, because you will see more of like lighter areas sort of shine through, whereas this particular one has more of a dark feel to it. I'm not sure if it's because these have been coated a little bit more or not, or there was a different method to coating these, but you'll see in the weighted one there was just a little bit more lightness to it. As far as the boxwood ones, I mean, they're about the same. You could argue that the base of these is a little bit broader. We can kind of show you guys here. Yeah, a little bit broader. But then again, I think the reason why they made the weighted one broader is because they had to, so that they could still leave enough space for the wood to be thick enough so that it wouldn't be, very likely to break, and still put in that piece of metal inside of it. So I think there was a reason why it had to be just a little bit bigger. But the felt, as you guys can see on the bottom, is very similar. There's not much that's different about that. And the shape of these pieces is going to be very similar too. Now, as far as the weight, this is going to be the biggest difference for those of you guys who are interested to see. The weighted king here, it weighs in at 75 grams for the dark one, and only 35 grams for the light king. If we were to remove the extra weight from within this piece, I'm sure it would weigh about the same as that, if not even less, because if we were to remove that extra bit of weight here, we would have an empty space where that piece of weight was, Whereas in here, it's a solid piece of wood all the way through. But as you guys can see, there's a 40-gram difference in the weight between the light and between the dark kings here. Similarly, the light king here is 75 grams, and the light unweighted one is at 36. So once again, we're looking at approximately 40-gram differences. So let's go ahead and move on to the queens. The unweighted queens are here, and then the weighted queens are going to be right over here. Very, very similar, not really a whole lot different. I would hate to do this kind of a number, you know how they do this, and then because then I would be at odds. The only way that I can tell them apart is by the weight differences. So I know that this one and this one are heavy. So here, we'll just do this like that. Light, heavy, okay? Not much else here going on. They're really, really quite similar. Some of you guys might notice maybe the differences in slight bit of shade, but to be honest with you guys, these are very, very slight differences. Once again, I think the heavier one here does have a little bit of a lighter sort of a see-through with this particular shade, whereas this here, being that it's, I don't know, maybe newer, it just doesn't have as much of a see-through. It's more darker. As far as the weight of them, with a weighted, the light queen weighs at 61 grams, and then the unweighted one weighs at 32. So we see half the difference in weight, 61 versus 32, like half. And then the dark one is 63, and the dark unweighted is 35. This would be a great chess set for somebody who maybe doesn't necessarily want to have a really heavy, chess set, especially if you're playing a lot of games and you're not really overcumbered by the idea of like, oh no, I only have to have a weighted chess set. I can't. This is great. If you bypass this and say that this is excellent, because it really is. It's excellent because it's large enough to have the bases are very nice and stable. If you're playing and here's another very interesting thing, and pay attention to this. Now I might not be able to translate this in as far as having you guys sense what I'm talking about, but when I'm sitting here and I take these two weighted queens, and any of the other weighted chess pieces in fact, and I go like this, there's a certain vibration to them. Whereas when I do this, there's even a different sound. Look. Feel that? Versus, there's a little bit more of a metallic feel to this when you do that. This feels more natural. This feels more the way wooden chess pieces should be, to be honest with you. Now, you guys might ask me, am I a musician? What am I doing here doing this? We're not playing musical instruments, and, I do talk about vibration and stuff for the chess pieces a lot, but in this case, when you're taking chess pieces like this, when you're playing your game, you will feel that vibration. And you will feel that there's a difference. These unweighted ones actually feel more wooden. A lot more wooden than these, just because of that extra little bit of weight. I'm guessing prevents the wood from vibrating the way it should be, because here the wood is vibrating through its entire body. Therefore, the vibration is the same. And here, it kind of has a little bit more of a dense feel to it. And I feel like because as you do this, the vibrations start off and then they get dampened by that bottom base part. So most of us are used to this. But this definitely feels different and sounds different too. Just take my word for it. I know it's kind of hard for me to really sort of translate into the camera, but let's move on to the bishops, okay? Take my word for it, guys. I know this type of stuff because I have a lot of different chess pieces that I review, so I know these type of little minute differences, and I'm very detail oriented too. These are the bishops, okay? These are the light bishops. These are the heavy bishops. They really are very similar. You could argue and say that this one right here is a little bit lighter than this particular boxwood, but aside from that, I mean, if you sort of change these up and you said, hey, just have half of the pieces be one and half of the other, besides the weight on camera, you really wouldn't be able to see that much of a difference. Weight-wise, the light bishop here weighs in at 40 grams. That's the weighted one. The unweighted one, 18 grams. That's wild. Okay, 40 for the dark one, and 19 grams. 19 grams. So once again, you see just how much extra weight is being put into these to, give them that extra little bit of weight. These are actually kind of nice. I like them. I like that you really, they're light enough, like they have enough base for them to be nice and stable. They're not going to get toppled over, but at the same thing, they're just so fast. They really are. This is the type of pieces that you would want for like a really fast bullet type of game. Most of us, play on the computer, so we don't really pay attention to that. But yeah, really, really quick chess pieces. And that sound, once again, is not dampened by that bottom part. So that's kind of cool. Let's see the knights. We have here we go, the light and then the slightly heavy knights. Once again, very, very similar design. Pretty much nothing's changed here. A little bit of a lighter boxwood here, but aside from that, like I said, I have to indicate which ones are light and which ones are heavy, because on the camera you won't be able to know otherwise. The dark knight here weighs at 47. Let's see what this one weighs at 23. So pretty much half the weight. The light, the heavy light one, not the light, the white one. The white one's heavy, 46. The light one's 24, 23, 47, 46. So yeah, about half the weight. And once again, you still get the same ergonomics, which is what I really like about this particular chess set, especially when it comes to the knights, because it's so much easier to grab a knight that doesn't have all the protruding mane and ears and all that. But this one in particular is kind of my favorite one, because that top portion of the head here, it's just so easy to grab. It really is. There's nothing protruding here, and it makes it just so comfortable to play, in my opinion. But what adds to the advantage of this particular chess set is just the lightness of it. It's quick. It is just quick. You can really play quick games on this, and so that's one of the things that I really like about this particular chess set. Now, one big difference here, and there's going to be a lot of people out there that might have opinions about this. These were the rooks to the weighted Dubrovnik. They're going to be having that interesting shape where it's sort of conical and converges here towards the surface. I like this design because not a lot of my rooks are this way. And I really like how it sort of converges up a little bit, just because it makes these particular rooks unique. Here are the unweighted ones. They're going to be more standard. The height-wise, they're kind of be very similar, as you guys can see right over here. Very similar. But you're going to have more standard look. Here you observe that from the base, the convergence starts to occur towards the top. Then you have this sort of a diverging area, and then it converges again. So you have 2 points of convergence. 1, 2. Here, we don't really see that much of a convergence. We do have a little bit, but not noticeably a whole lot. And then up here, it just goes straight up. Compared to the top, the differences are you have just a broader top over here. So some people will actually prefer this to that. Okay, there's been a lot of people that have commenting on the shape of these, and they were saying some good things, some things people didn't really prefer, but we have a more traditional shape to the rook here. I kind of like it. So, a rook is a rook. I like this a lot, but I can really very much so enjoy playing with these as well. So as far as the weight, the dark weighted one is at 43 grams. The light one, I'm assuming, is at 23 grams. So 20 grams lighter. And then the light one is at 46. And then the unweighted light one is at 22. So as you can see here, we're pretty much cutting every single piece in about half as far as weight. But we're not really taking away from the overall stability of this particular chess piece. I really, really love how just, not that this one has too much interference, but this is just, boy, this is this is really quick. It's a quick chess set, and I feel like this will really appeal to a lot of people playing blitz games, bullet games especially. This is just so quick, you know. Let's take a look at the pawns. Pawns are going to be the last thing. We have the unweighted pawns versus the weighted pawns. Here, really don't see a whole lot of difference. Not really much of a difference as far as shape. Everything kind of looks very similar. The base width of these pieces is also about the same, more or less, but just a little bit of a sort of a little bit lighter for the unweighted. There's not a whole lot of extra weight here, but as we will see, there's still some extra weight in the weighted pieces. 25 grams for the weighted versus 10 grams for the unweighted. And then the dark one is at 23 versus this one's at 10. So 10, that's pretty cool. In my opinion, I mean, and once again, it kind of goes to show you that, because some people did comment on, like, even the Chestnut Pro, the pieces they said were a little bit too light in their opinion. But when you have pieces that are a little bit lighter like this, a lot of times there's just more applicability to them. They can be played in quicker games, you know. And I think some people are concerned that, oh, if the chess pieces are a little too light, what's going to happen? What is going to happen if they're going to fall or something? Or they're going to be unstable? Take it from me, I think that they're big enough to be stable. So I feel like that is really the biggest sort of a factor of it. It's not so much the extra weight that they put on the bottom. It's the width of the base, the overall proportions, the size of the piece that's going to make them stable or not. So, well, there you go. That's as far as the actual comparison. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and set them up. And so that you guys can take a look. Okay, so I did set these pieces up just to show you guys that this half here, so the queen and this way, are going to be the light unweighted pieces. And then king and that way are my Dubrovnik that's weighted. So as we will see here, I'm going to try to kind of show you guys from different perspectives. There's really not that much difference, and to be honest with you, if it wasn't for necessarily the weight difference, this on camera looks like it's just one chess set. There's not a whole lot that's different about them. I mean, obviously you can see the rooks are a little bit different, but aside from that, as far as the coloration or the shape of the pieces, everything's pretty much the same, more or less. If we look at the dark pieces right over here, kind of see just about the same pattern. I could probably say that the unweighted one looks a little bit darker, but then again, this could be on sort of individual basis because they're stained. The one particular chess set might be stained a little bit less. One particular chess set might be stained a little bit more. If you order yours might be a little bit lighter, but they're all going to be kind of the same sort of the same stain, more or less. And yeah. It's a wonderful, wonderful looking chess set, as you guys can see right over here. It's pretty awesome. I like both of them quite a bit. My favorite chess set on my favorite board. Well, there you have it, folks. What do you guys think about this particular chess set? How do you guys think it compares, in your opinion, to the weighted Dubrovnik chess set? Do you have one preferences versus the other, given that the price isn't really that much different? It really comes down to whether or not you want a Dubrovnik chess set that more closely resembles the original one, whether that extra little bit of weight is significant enough for you, and whether or not you want to carry around that little bit of extra weight. As I mentioned before, when you're weighing individual chess pieces, that's one thing. When you are carrying all the chess pieces together with the extra queens and the bag and a clock, and a booklet, and a pen, and the board, sometimes, you know, that can add up to being a little bit heavy. And, you know, we've already seen if you're carrying around a wooden board, that can get, you know, it can get pretty heavy overall. And if you're a child, or if you're buying a chess set for a child, or if you just want something a little bit lighter than some of the other chess sets, then, you know, look at this as being one of the options. And not necessarily that, you know, maybe you just want to have your chess set stand out in some way, because 99.9% of the other chess sets that, you know, other people will play will be weighted. So when we look at this particular chess set, it's unweighted. And if you're playing at a tournament somewhere, nobody's just going to immediately say, oh, this chess set is unweighted. No, they're not going to do that. But they're going to play the game as you will play the game. You're not really going to notice that there's that much of a difference. But I feel like somehow, one way or another, they're going to feel like your chess set is unique and different from many of the other chess sets. In my opinion, I think that definitely an unweighted chess set has its advantages. For one, as I mentioned before, a reduced likelihood that it's going to crack. A reduced likelihood that it's going to crack even if the chess set falls, if the chess piece falls on the ground. Well, depending what type of ground. I mean, if it falls on tile from a really high distance, then maybe. But you're just going to be less likely to see breaks and cracks, and less likely to see like naturally occurring cracks in these particular chess pieces, just because they don't have to drill inside of that wood, and they don't have to compromise the overall structural integrity of that chess piece by, by giving you that extra bit of weight that you may or may not necessarily want. Okay, so that's about it for this particular video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like. It really helps. For every like, it helps to make the videos a little bit more visible to the people out there that might be looking for chess sets like this, chess set reviews. Be sure to leave that like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already to my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video, okay? Bye-bye.